Okay. Training with masks on, and you were asking, do you think there might be a performance benefit of wearing a mask during cardio? And that's a good question. One person brought up the fact that what is it that goes up? Carbon dioxide levels in your blood actually go up when you have the mask on. And that's often considered a negative thing, but there's actually health benefits of having higher carbon dioxide levels in your blood. A protection against cancer, for example. So who knows? We may actually find, because we're basically doing a controlled study right now. Everybody in Vegas who trains at a gym has to have a mask on. Now, it's going to be interesting when things get back to normal and we don't have to wear masks anymore. Maybe we're going to notice an improvement in performance all of a sudden. Maybe you're sprinting, you're like, whoa, I'm going a lot faster. Or maybe you're not taking long breaks in between sets anymore because you're used to this compromised breathing pattern. And now that it's taken away, there's some benefit to it. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to talk to people about masks because people are so political about it. They just get really angry on either side. So on one hand, you have people going, everyone's got to wear a mask. Otherwise, you don't care about anyone but yourself. You just show that you could care less about your fellow neighbor, right? You have that argument. And then you have the other side saying, this is a violation of my civil rights. It's unconstitutional. You can't tell me what to wear. People protesting about it. And honestly, I don't think wearing a mask is that big of a deal. If that's what we need to do to move forward as a society. Now, some will debate, look, the mask is not helping. It may be making things worse because we're not developing herd immunity as quickly as possible. There's a lot of smart people making arguments on both sides, so it's hard to know exactly where to.
Trying to really find a solution to the problem. It's easier said than done. So
yeah, that's right.
Each person thinks they're right, So
yeah. So it's tough. But my attitude is this: if a business wants me to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask. It's not that big of a deal. They say you have to wear a shirt and shoes anytime you go somewhere. Could you imagine someone saying, look, I'm not wearing a shirt. It's unconstitutional for me to wear a shirt. They insist on not wearing a shirt in a restaurant. Nobody would tolerate that. But now with this whole mask thing, it's no, I'm not going to wear a mask. I hate wearing these masks. Or this is a political conspiracy to push the election in a certain direction later this year. You have all these kind of arguments. But my attitude is that if this is what we need to do right now, fine, let's do it. Let's try it out. Let's try it out as an experiment. Okay, fine. We all wear masks consistently for a couple of months. If there isn't any improvement, then let's move on. But maybe it's effective. So let's see what happens.
I agree.
So you're in New Jersey, and we were just talking before we started recording that you haven't been able to lift weights since March. And I want to provide a little bit of context for people watching who may not be familiar with you. You're a super strong guy. I mean, I was just watching you deadlift 750 pounds with jeans on. All right. You had jeans on, barefoot, I believe, deadlifting 750, no belts. And how much did you weigh? This is a couple years ago, right?
I weighed about 273 that day. So I was enjoying food too much.
You're a big guy, but that's a lot. 750 is 750. I don't care how much you weigh. 750 is a lot of weight, and you did it for a double. And it looked like you could have done possibly one more.
No, I didn't have an extra rep. If anything, I could have done a plate 765 for 2 reps, and that would have been my max that day. So I could have done another 15 pounds for a set of 2, but I didn't have a third rep.
Right. Now, I noticed with your technique, you have a really strong back. So I mean, not to say that you're not using your legs, but when I deadlift, I try to load up the legs as much as possible to get the bar moving. I noticed that you create the hinge, but you don't try to drop your hips as far as possible from what I can see. You start up a little bit higher, and then you just, boom, you yank the bar off the ground like you're starting a lawnmower. It's very ballistic. And I find that technique really interesting. I'm going to play around with a technique similar to yours. But is this something that you found over time worked really well for you?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes natural to me because I guess it's just a matter of me being built to pull conventional. So I just played around with the stances just over time. When I started deadlifting, what happened? I'm sorry. When I started deadlifting, I was doing it sumo. That was most of my early years with sumo until I really overtrained. I was getting stronger, but I overtrained. I got injured. And then since I got injured, I found a way. And since I got injured, every time I did sumo, I would get injured again. So that's when I went back to conventional.
Yeah.
So I was able to just find my way to pull conventional.
Right. I
And
never found sumo to be that. Yeah, I never found sumo to be that comfortable.
I guess with sumo, you just really have to learn the technique. Nowadays, I could pull sumo again, but it's just doesn't feel as natural to me. And I
Yeah.
only sumo in the first place when I started out because I tried conventional, but every time I did conventional, even with me not rounding my back, I would get severe back pain for a week, lower back pain.
Oh, really?
So sumo, I wouldn't get pain whatsoever. Then it became the reverse over the years, where I would get back pain doing sumo after a few reps, and unless the sumo weight is effortless. But once it gets hard, I would feel it, and then conventional would feel good, and then now, now I could do both just fine.
Yeah. Now you're a pretty tall guy. How tall are you?
I am 6'1".
Okay, so you're not super tall. I mean, you're just an inch taller than I am. The reason why I bring that up is because a lot of times guys that are 6'4", or so, even with conventional, they have a hard time keeping the back perfectly flat. But don't you find that when you get to a certain weight, it's virtually impossible to keep the back completely flat? I mean, it's going to round a little bit at a certain point.
Yeah, I found like if especially if your gut gets too big, where
Yeah.
it's it's hard. I mean, my gut was big when I was pulling like the strongest numbers,
Yeah.
like 750, but it was still not too big where it would be hard to position.
Yeah.
Simply because I also had the short torso and long arms, which
Right.
made it easy to pull conventional. But also before the 750 video, I did deadlift 715 before, and I was a pretty lean 250 pounds. And that was like 6 months before the 750. I
Yeah.
715, and that was after squatting 600 in sleeves in the same session.
Wow.
Sleeves, low bar.
Yeah, that's no joke. Now, with a barbell, do you prefer one that bends with heavier weights, or do you like one that doesn't bend at all?
Me, it kind of doesn't matter. As far as the 750, that was on the, I believe, Texas deadlift bar, and that one bends. And maybe you get a little bit out of it. But the 715 I did on when I weighed 250 pounds and pretty lean after squatting 600. That was on a regular stiff bar.
Okay.
And and even during that time when I was pretty lean that summer before the weight gain and got fat, I still couldn't do like 725 or 735 on the Texas bar. So it kind of varies on the person how much you get out of the bars. Like I even at my lean self, I couldn't hit those numbers I hit when I was fat.
Yeah. Now, does having a gut can actually be advantageous with squatting, right? You push your stomach into your thighs at the bottom position. But what about deadlifts? Is it neutral? Is there actually some advantage to carrying excess body weight?
If I mean, as far as deadlifts, out of all the lifts, it's the least advantageous.
Yeah.
But as far it could be advantageous if you actually gain muscle with it. But
Right.
if you get way too fat where you can't breathe, you can't position, and the
Yeah.
belt is tight and all, then
Right.
you actually end up deadlifting less.
Yeah. Now, when you wear a belt, because I actually started using a belt recently, about a month ago. I never used a belt before that. And it took a little bit of practice to figure out what's the most comfortable way to use it. I mean, the first time I used it, I made it so tight that I couldn't brace, and that actually caused more damage than good because now my back's locked in this bad position. And then my physical therapist slash chiropractor, he said, make the belt a little bit looser so that you can really push your stomach into it to brace, as opposed to you sucking in and now you're stuck in this position. And that made a huge difference. So with the belt, how do you like to configure it?
Honestly, I agree with the chiropractor with the belt. Even though for you personally, my philosophy with lifting is lift in a way that works the best for you. Even if somebody else says you should lift this way, lift that way, this way works better for you than this other way. If
Right.
it's working for you, then continue lifting in that way. If you're making progress, if you're staying healthy, and if it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But my point of view of the belts, based on what I've experienced, as long as you could brace comfortably and you don't suck out the oxygen, well, we're all different with that. If it's not way too tight, where you could at least breathe and brace yourself, then that's when it's okay.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, because there's a friend of mine. She's a young lady. She's a powerlifting coach in South Africa, and she only weighs about 115 pounds, and she deadlifts 400 pounds. She's super strong, and she makes the belt as tight as possible. But when I look at her, I'm thinking, okay, you're super lean. Different body type, different structure. I mean, she has zero body fat. I mean, she's super lean. So I think in her case, she can position that belt really tight where it doesn't impede the movement pattern at all. She's able to get into the right position and so forth. Myself, I found that the belt started digging into my ribs. I actually had painful ribs after my ribs were hurting as if they got bruised. I'm like, okay, this thing's way too tight. It was almost as if my abs were going over the belt because it was so tight. And that just did, it actually didn't really protect my back when it was that tight either, because I couldn't push my abs out to brace for it. You're just forced in that position. But now I feel like I have it dialed in. Now it feels really good. And it's fun to use a belt because I feel way more confidence with my lower back. And when you train without a belt, you're always thinking, okay, make sure you stay in the pocket. Don't screw up on this one because you're going to feel it in your back. And sometimes you do everything right and you still feel it in your back without a
Yeah.
belt on. But with a belt on, I noticed that I don't feel a thing in my back. I mean, even after I did that personal PR last week, my back was great. I didn't feel anything in my lower back. So I'm enjoying using the belt. I'm curious to see how much further I can take things because I think I'll be able to progress a lot faster using a belt now.
I'm glad to hear that because that's the thing, not just the progress, but hitting these milestones, and not just hitting the milestone too, but if you ever make some sort of progress without getting hurt is the main thing about it. You want to do this, stay as long as possible without getting injured. Even though every now and then, if you do anything long enough, you're just going to get hurt every now and then because that's just part of doing something for a long time.
Right.
It's have aches and pains, but every time you achieve something and come out of it ready to do it another day without any pain or injury, that's a good thing. That means you could maybe add a few more pounds, maybe a few more sessions later, and just make sure there's like no injury. And if it's injury, then it's all right. Just come out of it.
Yeah. And that's an important point. And that's why I usually don't train to my maximum that often. I like to leave a few reps in the bank. So let's say I can do 5 plates 6 times as a maximum. I'll do a couple sets of 3. And that way it's heavy enough that I'm building strength. I like to call that making a deposit. Those kind of training sessions, you're just making deposits. You're getting better at training. You're getting better at the skill of executing the lift. So when I want to make a big withdrawal, it's there. And then you leave fresh so you can do it more often, because I don't know what kind of frequency you use when you're deadlifting, when you're working really heavy on it. But I actually like to deadlift 3 to 4 times a week. Now at 70 to 80% of my 1 rep max, so it's nowhere close to anything heavy. But I just find that by the end of the week, your technique feels better than the beginning of the week. You just feel like your mind-body connection is getting really dialed in. But the key is you can't increase the weight rapidly because you have the temptation to do that. Everything feels so light. You're thinking, oh, let me just add another plate to each side. And then the whole thing unravels. So it actually takes a lot of discipline to not push it really hard. Because you want to. You feel you can at every session, but you go, okay, I'm going to stay within these conservative parameters, and then I'll do a peaking phase. So if I go, okay, I want to pull 650 in 4 weeks. Now I'm going to ramp it up just to get comfortable with the heavier lifts, just to get my mind body ready. Because if you always play it too safe, what happens is let's say you give everything you have to get that bar off the ground and it only moves a couple inches, and then you give up because you're used to it popping to the knees. So you have to get used to that struggle as well, so that it's comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, even me, when I was starting out my first few years, I did a program. You probably know this guy because when I was looking at your articles and when I was in high school, which was like between 2016 and 2010, I was in high school.
Okay.
There was another strength coach. I think you know him, Pavel
Yeah,
Paul.
Pavel Tsatsouline. He's my kettlebell teacher. He's the first guy I learned kettlebells from.
Yeah, I was a big student of his when it came to like programs. I mean, the first 2 years of my lifting, it was just doing stuff people don't know. And what do you do when you don't know anything? You either do what somebody tells you, or you do arms and machines without any direction.
Right.
And that's what I did, arms and machines without any direction. And I was just eating whatever. I did strong, but it that's what I did until I slowly, during those 2 years, I was doing a lot of research. Saw your articles. I saw Powell. I don't want to say his name wrong.
Yeah, just say Pavel.
Just say
Just
what?
Pavel. Yeah, no one tries to say his last name. People always choke on that one. But it's Tsatsouline, but most people just call him Pavel. In fact, I think he even calls himself Pavel. If you buy one of his recent books, he doesn't even put his last name on it anymore. He just says by Pavel, and that's it. But the book you're talking about is Power to the People, which actually predates all of the kettlebell information he came out with. That came out around 2000, 2001, around that time frame. And it's a program where you deadlift 5 times a week, and it's 2 sets of 5. So the first set, you take, I believe, 85% of your 5 rep max, and then you do 1 set of 5. And then I think you take 90% of the 85% and do 1 set of 5. And then you do it 5 days a week. And then you do side presses. So it's 2 exercises. It's deadlifts and some kind of overhead press. 2 sets of 5 on both. And that's it. 5 days a week. Nothing else. No core exercises. No, nothing else. And I think that's a really good program for someone just starting off too, because you need that frequency. And if you're just learning the skill of deadlifts, you don't have to worry about overtraining because you're not strong yet. You're just learning this. And the more practice you get, the better you're going to get. I mean, if you wanted to learn how to play the piano, you're not going to just play on Monday and then not play again until the following Monday. You're going to ideally practice a little bit every day.
You know, that's what I did after my, I guess, noob games, after my beginner games. When I went to my freshman year of college, I did my own twist of that program, along with calisthenics and Captain the Crush grippers.
Yeah.
I ended up adding 40 pounds to my bench press the first cycle, 250 to 290.
Nice.
And the second time I did it, I went up to 305 on bench press. And I even added, like, I would say 110 pounds to my deadlift on the one cycle doing it from 475 to 585.
Wow, that's incredible.
So and that this was sumo, and I was a lot lighter. I weighed 220.
Wow.
And I would also say, to be frank, my best deadlift ever during that time was 505 sumo. So it went down to 475. So to be fair, I would say I added 80 pounds to my best deadlift in a matter of like three months during that time.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I was deadlifting 5 days a week. And I did my own twist too, where once I hit the 5 rep max, we're hitting like one set 5 days a week, adding like 5 pounds a day, same with bench. I would do like 2 weeks of high volume work for like two weeks, like 3 days a week with the
Right.
same weight, doing like 1 rep, 2 rep, 3 rep ladders, and then add back to the cycle.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of progress to make in 3 months. You're making me want to whip out that book and start doing that program. Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that next week. I want to, hey, if I add 85 pounds to my deadlift in 3 months, I'll be knocking on the door of 700. That sounds good to me. Yeah, I'll have to give that a shot. Yeah, that's a pretty cool program. I think the challenge with a lot of people, I think beginners will do really well on it because they're beginners, they're just going to follow it. I think more advanced lifters would have a hard time with that, especially if you're imagine if you're driving to the gym and you do your 2 sets of deadlifts and some overhead stuff and then that's it, you leave. That's going to be hard for a lot of people. You're going to want to stick around and do more. If you have a setup in your home, that'll actually be easy. So, I mean, if I wanted to do this deadlift program, I would use my home gym and just get the deadlift work in 5 days a week. But the thing is right now is I'm trying to balance all of these variables because I think cardio is really important too. And last year I had this horrible flu that turned into pneumonia. And I was really sick for 2 weeks. My respiratory system got destroyed. It just got obliterated. And I got my strength back in a couple months, but it took a long time to get my cardiovascular system healthy again. Just walking around the block, I would be tired. And I started doing interval training on an elliptical machine, just 30 minutes. First, I started off at 20 minutes, just going at a moderate pace. Then I worked up to 30 minutes. Now I do 30 minutes 3 times a week, and I go fast on it. I go 8, 9 miles an hour for 30 minutes the whole time. So I hustle on it. And I feel so much better. I just feel so much healthier as a result of doing that. I feel my energy and my wind is really good. My blood pressure is great. So what I wouldn't want to have to cut that out is where I'm going to focus on more weight training sessions. I'm doing about 3 weight training sessions and then 3 cardiovascular sessions. And as a result, though, my body weight is lower now. When I pulled 585, my body weight was around 210. Now, that was 2018. Now my body weight's at 199 to 201. And I'm stronger. I lifted 20 pounds more at 10 pounds lighter. So I like that. I like being light on my feet. I find that when I get to a certain body weight, 210, 215, I feel definitely stronger lifting weights, especially pressing stuff, overhead pressing and so forth. Pressing goes way up with the extra body weight. But I feel heavy on my feet. I don't feel like I can move and run and sprint, and I don't feel as agile. So I like where I'm at right now. So I'd like to keep my body weight at this weight for as long as possible while I work up to some heavier numbers. If possible, I'd like to stay here and not have to put on another 10, 15 pounds.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because funny enough, well, you're saying everything you say relates to like what I've been through in the past or what I'm actually going through right now. Because with this, this COVID is a big disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's happening, but there is some good that happens with it. Like if it weren't for this COVID, because believe it or not, I actually lost a good 45 pounds since COVID. And
Wow.
I know I was losing weight because before COVID, I was just on my road to get stronger. Like I know you saw that 365 speed bench press. I
Yeah.
was so
Nice.
my upper body was going up. I was I was even getting close to 500-pound bench press.
Wow.
For me, with the bench press, it was my weakest lift ever. But I'm somebody that I was a 14-year-old starting out, first in the weight room, and I was the first person in the weight room that year. But first day, we were maxing out. I did 95 pounds at one
Yeah.
pounds body. I weighed 150 pounds. I had a 95-pound max, and I had a 95-pound max, and 100 pounds crushed me.
Yeah.
And also, even the same year, our 10 push-ups would be very, very hard to do.
Right.
So,
Right.
I was just eating in a way, and I was very close to 500 on the bench press, and this was also without drugs. So I was natural, right? So 100. So going from a very weak bench press starting out to an elite bench press, not being gifted at a bench without drugs, that would have been a big thing.
How many
But
years between getting pinned with 100 pounds and almost bench pressing 500 pounds? What was the time span on that?
I would say the time span from 2006 to now, so 14 years.
Wow.
And even more on this, it was just because of bad eating habits. My body weight was probably going to be near 300 pounds. So long story short, the COVID, I wasn't eating at the restaurants. All I cared about was getting stronger and eating to satisfy my appetite, but I wasn't healthy. The only time I felt good was when I was eating food and lifting a heavy weight. So, because of the COVID, I lost a lot of weight, and now I feel even healthier. I even look better. And now I'm thinking more of the long run that, you know what? Even with the strength I lose, maybe I won't even be able to do 365 anymore, or if I ever get to 365 at a lot lighter body weight, it'll be at a it'll be at a slow speed. But now I want to take my time to get strong and do it being because I know I'm gonna achieve my goals, but I'm looking at the end of the tunnel. I'd
Right.
rather achieve superhuman strength or close to my best numbers. Even if I don't hit my numbers I hit before, it doesn't matter to me. Like you said, I'd rather be overall very healthy doing this and even up my cardio, have a healthy heart, adopt healthy habits, and be close to the strength that I was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like it. I think that's important because a lot of times people focus on, they have this, they tend to denigrate cardiovascular training. Like, oh, you're going to lose muscle if you do too much cardio. That's one we always hear. You're just going to eat up your muscle tissue. And I didn't find that at all. I mean, I hit the interval training hard 3 times a week. I lifted weights 3 times a week. I didn't even eat that much. I only eat essentially 2 times a day. I have a protein shake in the morning, which is a pretty high calorie meal I make. And then I have a big dinner at night. Usually it's dinner split into 2 separate eating sessions. But that's it. I don't eat a whole lot during the day. And I've found that the combination of everything allows me to just eviscerate body fat. So I'm leaner now than I've been in a long time, and then stronger than I've been in a long time. So right now I feel like I have the perfect combination of everything. So I'm real happy about that. I feel my cardio is really good, my strength is really good, my health is really good. And at my age, you're way younger than I am. I'm 46. So I want to be able to do this for a even longer time. I've been training hard since I was 18, but I enjoy this. So I don't want to be so beat up or develop cardiovascular issues where now I can't lift heavy weights. And it doesn't have to be that way either. You just have to, you don't want to wait until you develop heart issues to start doing something about it. You know, my mother died of a heart attack. So high blood pressure is in the family. Her father, my grandfather died of a heart attack. So that lineage of heart attacks is right there. And the last thing I'm going to do is wait for my blood pressure to start getting high. My blood pressure was getting it was getting elevated. It was 135 over 80, which is not super high, but it's not good, especially for someone who's health conscious. So I wanted to get it to a 115 over 75, which is where it is now. So that makes me feel way more secure about avoiding any kind of cardiovascular issues. And you just feel better. Your energy's good. When I'm just lifting heavy weights, low reps, I don't feel that energetic. My body feels somewhat beat up, and maybe I'm just not doing it right, but I don't feel as healthy and as energetic when I'm just lifting heavy weights. Got to do sprinting or interval training, something, something else.
I say you're doing it the right way because number one, you've been doing it for so many years. Number two, you've been doing it the healthy way. Number three, you've accomplished not just to accomplish, but I think the best way, honestly, is people who do it for the long run.
Right.
And our life to tell that, you know what?
Yeah.
I started with this, but I am this age. I am still be able to do this at this age. And even when I'm older, I'll still be able to do it.
Right.
I'll like to tell.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking more. That's what I'm thinking more of now. Longevity. Don't get me wrong. I don't regret anything I've done because if I, the marathon, not a sprint quote, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I ran a few sprints over time. The only thing that's not a marathon about what I did is I'm natural. I don't take drugs. Otherwise, I've done my sprints, especially with the weight gain and diet and injuries. But nowadays, I'll take sprints every now and then, but I'm thinking more about the marathon and the long road.
Right.
That I don't care if I'm ever as strong again, but I'd rather have total fitness along with strength. I want to be able to do at your age. I want to be healthier at your age than I am now
Right.
and more efficient and stuff, you know?
Yeah, and there's no reason why you can't be. Let's rewind back to your how you got started with lifting, because this is really interesting. So you started lifting weights around 2010. This is in high school.
To 20, honestly, I started training exactly 2006, eighth grade.
Okay, 2006, right. Now, when you deadlifted, let's say 600 pounds for the first time, how many years after starting was that?
585 was, I would say, end of November 2010. 600 itself, because, I was focusing on other things and I was injured and stuff. That was 2013.
Yeah. So not that long after getting started. I mean, those are pretty impressive results. And then you went on to work up to 750 for a double, and that's a couple years ago, right? That's around 2018.
2017, end of
Okay,
2020.
17.
Hmm.
So I mean, that shows you that you really had your training dialed in, because you didn't start off with some genetic proclivity for being strong. Like you said, you got pinned with 100 pounds. And you know what's funny is I did too. I was laughing when you told that story, because the first time my dad bought me this weight training set for my parents' house, and I put 100 pounds on the bar. It was one of those benches where if you put too much weight on the bar, the whole thing flips over. You have to you have to make sure someone's sitting on the bench while you load up the plates and all that. And so anyway, I put 100 pounds on it, thinking, okay, this is where I'm going to start. I'm just going to rep out with this. And I got pinned, and I had to roll the bar off me and flip it over. And I remember feeling so weak. I was 18 in high school. I go, this is pathetic. I can't even bench press 100 pounds. But that made me so motivated to get stronger. And within a couple of months, I was bench pressing 200 pounds. And then within a couple of years, 315, 365. I became obsessed with the bench press, just like most young guys do. So the mistake I made is I looked like a fucking flamingo. I had no legs. I didn't do deadlifts. I didn't do squats. I'm just bench pressing and doing any exercise I think will help my bench press. So after a while, it got ridiculous, though, because you start becoming really top heavy. Your back is big, you got lats, but you have no glutes, you got no legs, you got no calves. And this is a mistake. This bad advice seems to get passed down with each generation, because a lot of the young guys I see at the gym now, they're doing the same thing. So their fathers were probably my age, and they're just going, oh, yeah, here's how you get started with weight training. You do a lot of curls for the girls, and then you do some bench presses. And this bad advice just keeps getting passed down.
Let's be frank. Most people lift not just to be strong, but majority of people lift for cosmetic reasons.
100%.
So they really just lift to get big arms, look good in clothes,
Right.
and probably woo the ladies. So that's
Yeah,
what they.
exactly.
Because to be honest, the average human being who's not into lifting like you and me, and
Yeah.
most heavy into it, they just look at the muscles everybody sees, which
Mhm.
is the arms, sometimes the chest and shoulders, and the
Right.
six pack, and
Yeah.
the abs.
Yeah.
Almost nobody sees the legs. It's
Right.
mainly serious lifters.
That's right. I mean, most of the time you have pants on, so you can hide skinny legs.
Exactly.
But I mean, you can't say you're strong if you only have a strong bench press and you don't have a strong squat or deadlift, because that lower body base, that lower body power, that is way more responsible for your full body power than anything else. So I mean, me having a strong deadlift, that allows my whole body to act as a strong unit, where a bench press without a strong deadlift or squat doesn't. So okay, your upper body's strong, but you have no base, so someone could just push you really hard and you're going to fall right over. And you're not going to be able to generate any power back, because it's only coming from your upper body, and the upper body is only going to be able to generate so much power. It's that lower body, especially for anyone that's an athlete. It's that lower
Yeah.
body that dictates so many things. I think Louis Simmons said there's a very strong correlation between sprinting ability and deadlift strength. So if you want to improve someone's sprinting ability, you improve their deadlift and their sprinting goes way up. And I've actually found the reverse too. I don't know if you have found this, but I had a nasty groin injury last year too, so that took a while to get over. And before that happened, I used to love sprinting. I would do 10, 50 to 100-yard sprints a couple times a week. That was my cardio. After that groin injury, I was just very reluctant. Now the injury is completely gone. I don't feel anything. So when it gets a little bit cooler, it's super hot here in Vegas right now. But when it cools down, I want to get sprinting back in my routine. But here's what I found with sprinting. I do 10 all-out sprints. I'm tired, but I'm also very energetic after doing that. And then sometimes I would come home and I would do some deadlifts or some kettlebell presses, and the weights would just fly up because I think you've activated so much fast twitch muscle fiber with the sprinting, and then your adrenaline is up too from the sprinting. So I think it's a combination of the hormonal output and then the engagement of fast twitch muscle fibers that it's, I mean, every time it's almost as if I'm stronger on those exercises after doing sprinting than I would be if I didn't do the sprinting.
Funny enough, early in my lifting career, like around 2011, 2010, I did read a article on Dragon Door about one dude who was like around 150 pounds. He gained a lot of pounds on his deadlift, ended up doing like 540 because he was doing a cycle of kettlebell swings before his deadlifts.
Right.
So just that power output just, I guess, warmed up the CNS or something like that.
That's right. That's what happens. The nervous system gets fired up. That also is effective. Often I do double kettlebell swings before deadlifts, and that's just more to loosen up the body, get primed, to get ready to go. I mean, all these things are going to help to a degree, right? In other words, if you're deadlifting 750 and then you're going, okay, I'm going to go sprinting before, or I'm going to do kettlebell swings before, that's all fine and good, but that lift is either there or it isn't. It's not going to be, man, if I didn't do those kettlebell swings before, I wouldn't have moved that bar off the ground. I think it's just going to feel a little bit easier. You're going to get a little bit more of a pop. But with training, it's either there or it isn't. I mean, when I pulled 605, I wasn't planning on pulling 605 until maybe the fall or the winter of this year. I was just taking my time. But the day I did it, I just felt it. I go, it's there. It's there. Go do it today. Don't dick around. Because sometimes when you anticipate things, that makes it worse. So if I say, okay, next week on Wednesday, this is what I'm going to do. Oh, looks like I lost you. It's audio visual. Oh, there you are. Now you're back. Okay. Yeah, so I think all these tricks are fine and good. There's certain stretches people like to use. There's certain engagement tactics, and that's all fine and good. But I think it's either there or it isn't. And when I pulled 605 that day, I knew it was there. I just knew it was there. And then when I did my warm-up sets, everything felt light. And I go, let me try 525 and see how that feels. And that went up easy for a 3. At that point, I go for it. Do it. Today's the day to go do it. And so I think you have to have that belief that there's no doubt in your mind. When you're going into these kind of things, like Mark Philippi, my coach, he's the one who taught me optimal deadlift technique. He says he can just look at someone before they do a deadlift and he'll know 100% of the time whether they're going to get it or not. He can see the lack of confidence or the confidence. He can see the intensity, the focus, or the lack thereof. And I think it's one of those things. It actually helps to do it in the gym too, because at the gym I go to, not a lot of people lift that much. So when they see me loading up the bar like that, everyone starts watching. And when everyone's watching, you're more incentivized to not screw it up. The last thing you want to do is go for that lift and then it doesn't budge off the ground. It doesn't move. So I think a gym environment actually helps too.
Yeah, I agree with that, Yeah, and even more with the lower body too. I mean, I'm sorry, my brain just
Oh, that's okay. We're just talking about the lower body. Certain point you think about. Was it something related to squats or something you think about before squatting?
I think it was more of damn.
benefit of doing lower body work, or why it should be focused. We'll come back to it. That kind of thing happens to me all the time. Sometimes I'll be talking, and I'm about to make the main point, and I don't even remember what it is. And I've been talking for 10 minutes leading up to what's going to be the main point, and then I forget completely where I'm going. So it happens.
Because the thought was in my head when you were just talking about it, but damn, I just forgot. But yeah, we on.
It'll come back. It'll come back later. Just a few more questions. I don't want to hold you up all day. I appreciate the time. Yeah, I appreciate the time. Okay, so
lower body bit, because that's something I have a lot of opinion on,
Yeah.
I just want to, we'll come back.
Well, I think that, I actually prioritize lower body training now, meaning I always do that first. So if I'm doing squats, that's first. If I'm doing deadlifts, that's first. The upper body stuff is, to me, just icing on the cake. That's easy. This is why most guys prefer to do upper body stuff. They don't want to hit legs that hard and back, because legs and back, that's hard. Upper body stuff, I can do that all day long. I can sit there and do incline presses forever and pull-ups and so forth. No big thing. I won't even be that fatigued, even going heavy on that stuff. But you go heavy on deadlifts, your whole body is shaken to the core. I mean, your body is, you can feel it. You can feel the impact. Squats, same thing. So those are the exercises to me that are the most money. The ones that are going to have this hormonal response, right? The hormonal response you get from sprinting, squats, deadlifts, that's way more pronounced than what you're going to get from or bench press or lat pull downs. And those are all good exercises too, but
Yeah,
those should be the things that you prioritize. You make your lower body as strong as possible, it's going to be easier for your upper body to develop. And then you just look better too. You want to have a balanced physique.
I
I
agree.
train for strength, but that doesn't mean I don't want to look good. It's not my main focus. I'm not sitting around shaving my chest and posting pictures of myself on Instagram every day. But you want to look good too. You want to look the part.
I obviously want to look good myself. Obviously, strength is number one. And now I guess I remember more of what I want to say now.
Mhm.
But I guess me early on, I did care about having big, strong legs
Right.
in squats and deadlift. It did start when I guess when I first knew what a squat and deadlift was. That was like eighth grade. I didn't start it in eighth grade, but that's when I started when I started lifting. I started with squats and deadlifts. But I guess in eighth grade, I was watching WWE. I was watching the moves, and
Yeah.
I knew the moves require squats and deadlifts.
Right.
And I'm sure you know who Mark Henry is.
Yeah, sure.
Mark Henry, I saw in the magazines that, and I watched the WrestleMania that, and saw in the magazine that Mark Henry deadlifted 903 pounds. I was like, man, it would be cool to have that much power. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, squat and deadlift it is. And then even as a kid, I saw like John Cena and his shorts. I was like, this dude has big calves, even though I was like, what?
Yeah.
And until I found out later on that calves have nothing to do with leg strength. It has little to do. It's really your thighs, quads, and hamstrings and glutes. And then later on, when I was a freshman in high school, I saw all the football players, and I was in the weight room with the football players. They were all squatting and deadlifting, and some even the best weight, squatting, deadlifting a lot of weight. And some, like one of them who squatted a lot of weight and even had those big calves and quadriceps and everything, he ended up making the NFL. And
Wow.
some of the strongest kids in school squatted and deadlifted. And I also got into World's Strongest Man then, even before I got into powerlifting later. And they all squatted and deadlifted. So I kind of had that base saying that, you know what, as soon as possible that I get the chance to have my own license and stay in the gym, I'll squat, I'll deadlift, and I'll do everything I need to do to get strong.
Yeah.
And one more thing, I do agree with the upper body too, as you have to train every muscle. But out of the upper body, beside the pull up, which I think is fundamental, you pulling up your own body weight, it's what you do in nature. I think a strong shoulder press is important
Yeah.
because pressing something over your head, what else says strength than what you could pick up and press over your head, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's my favorite overhead. My favorite pressing move is overhead pressing, in particular with kettlebells, because with kettlebells, I can fine tune the technique perfectly to my physique. I can bring in the bells tight. I can pop them off the chest, get the weights moving, which is the equivalent of the dip and drive with deadlifts. You drop your hips and rip the bar off at the same time. With kettlebells, you can just pull the weights into you, drop your shoulders, and then you bump your chest up, and that gets the weights moving. Helps you accelerate it to the top. So
Mm-hmm.
kettlebell overhead pressing, that's probably, if I had to pick one pressing move, I could only do one pressing move for the rest of my life, it would definitely be the double kettlebell press. That just fits perfectly well for my body type. And I like overhead pressing with the barbell as well. I've got some arthritis in each elbow though, so certain moves I have to. I'm better with dumbbells. I can go heavy as I want on incline dumbbells, seated dumbbells, and then kettlebell overhead presses, independent motion on each side. With a barbell, especially bench press, I don't even bench press at all anymore. I just find it uncomfortable now because it's just too much stress on the elbows, and I can't extend my left arm fully, so the lockout is a lot of stress on the joint. But with the dumbbells, I can fixate it. I can find the right groove with it. But I mean, those kind of moves have such a big impact on your upper body as well. I mean, the shoulder development I have is not from any isolation work. It's just from doing different kinds of presses, dips, pull-ups, different.
I love dips, man.
I'm a compound guy, so I only do compound exercises, and I rarely do isolation work.
I do all compounds. That's just me.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
the compounds, calisthenics and barbell work, even dumbbell sometimes, and they're all compounds.
Right.
And sometimes if I have either the time and not injured, strongman. But otherwise, isolation I would rarely do because I feel like getting stronger on isolation works, but mostly your bulk of your work should come from the big compound movements.
Right.
And if anything extra, the compound, uh, let me see, calisthenics. And also, like what you said, I agree with if you don't have the mobility or if injuries prevent you to do certain exercises or certain bars, you should lift in a way where it doesn't injure you and it's comfortable. Like if barbell hurts you and it puts you in an awkward position, or certain stances of certain exercises feel unnatural and injury prone, you should change the way you like for example, if wide grip bench, it feels like you want to tear a pec or anything, do a
Right.
close bench. Or if overhead press, you feel injury prone, then use it with dumbbells.
Right.
Or maybe Smith machine, which I'm not for Smith machine, but maybe I guess if you're old or people feel more comfortable with Smith
Yeah.
machine, go. And kettlebells too. Like if you feel like you get more range of motion and more natural movement, go for it. So I know you get what I'm saying.
Oh, no, no. I think those are all really good points. And I think that it's only with experience that you determine what are the best moves for you. But you want to get to the point, as someone who's been lifting weights for a long time, and you have as well, you want to get to the point where you know what works for you. And no one can tell you anything up. Doesn't mean that you're not open to advice from people and that you're not learning, but you know what works for you. Like the deadlift technique I have now, I know that's what works for me. I can feel the power generation. The way I do kettlebell stuff, I know that's what works for me. And I know certain moves are just not a good fit for me, no matter how beneficial people like to say. You could write 100 articles on why I should do this move, but if it's not a good fit for me, it's going to be more of a negative impact than any kind of positive impact. I think diet's the same way. You have to get to the point where no one can tell you anything. You have experimented with enough different eating styles, and you know what works for you now. You know the combination of macronutrients. You know the fruits and vegetables that work for you. You know the food groups that are the best fit for you. And no one can tell you anything about that. Let's talk about diet a little bit. Is there any specific diet you're following now? You said you lost 45 pounds. Is that organically just from not going to your favorite restaurants and doing more walking and cardiovascular training?
Yeah, that's from not just doing more cardiovascular, but it's main for me when I lose weight and get healthier, it's mainly diet. I'm
Right.
not going out binging that much, and if I'm binging, I'm just doing it like not as often. And most of the time, I eat less than what I used to eat. I
Right.
either eat like less than I do in one day, or I eat well most of the time in the day, and if I binge, it'll be like once or twice. But I've also been taking it pretty slow because every now and then I do enjoy myself because
Yeah, you
food
have to.
is I look forward to.
Yeah,
But
food's yeah.
but before Before I lost the weight, I was maintaining the high unhealthy weight in the name of strength, enjoying food, because I was in food too much.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
now
yeah.
healthier choices, and I mean, I'm not making the best choices all the time, but it's mainly just healthier choices and eating less. I'm a believer of eating less and eating the wrong way less. You'll lose weight, you know?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it's really as simple as that. Or do you try to eat 3 times a day though, or do you eat based on your appetite? How do you structure your nutrition each day?
Most of the time I eat when I'm hungry, but if anything, like during my weight training sessions or if I work out, I'll have maybe a protein shake or like if I was like had a job or whatever, I would just have a quick meal because I wouldn't go home immediately from work and then go to the gym. I know that I have to eat immediately, then go to the gym, then get ready for work. So I would just eat something quick and then work out because I need the energy to lift and then come back. But nowadays, because I'm doing it at home, I would just maybe have a protein shake or lunch, then lift weight, and then maybe eat something after, and then if I'm hungry for the rest of the day, I'll either eat whatever. Maybe it's something light, maybe it's something good, maybe it's something I want to splurge on.
Right.
But rule of thumb is I normally either have a protein shake or eat a meal before workout so I have the energy. After the workout, it's around the same thing or something less.
Yeah.
But and for the rest of the day, like beforehand, unless it's like a major day where I have a big PR. But it's also placebo because sometimes in big PR days, you could eat as much as you want, but if you're not mentally there, or if you didn't get enough sleep, or if just wasn't meant to be, no
Yeah.
amount of eating is gonna get you that
Oh,
PR. Maybe it's just a better day would get you the PR. Sometimes if you do less than you normally do, you would get the PR.
right. Right. No doubt about it. Now, is there when you make food choices, are you eating certain kinds of meats, certain kinds of vegetables, what are your favorite food choices? Let's say things that are healthy.
Okay, out of the healthy food, I eat fruit, almost
Yeah,
any type of fruit. My favorite would be orange. I would also like kiwi. I like strawberries sometimes. I like what else do I eat? Apples and bananas. I would eat over the years, over the majority of my life, but nowadays I use apples and blueberries when I make protein pancakes. And
nice,
my protein
nice.
pancakes is basically my own recipe, and it has no added sugar or anything. The only thing bad about my protein pancakes is it's fried in oil. Otherwise, it's just protein. It's protein pancakes. And that's why I use my fruit. And I also eat vegetables, but I haven't been eating vegetables recently like I normally have been over the years. But that's also what I eat. And I eat a lot of chicken, obviously, but nowadays, for some reason, chicken's not agreeing with me unless it's deep fried. Not a
Yeah.
Popeyes way, but like
Yeah.
chicken jerk,
Yeah.
like a wooden type chicken. Like, you know, that's just my take. Say it's like chicken jerky or chicken bacon or something. And then ground beef and then meat stew and stuff like that. And and obviously, I don't know if you would consider cheese that healthy, but sometimes I would. So anything you grow and kill, just to sum it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what you're doing is obviously working for you, and it sounds basic and it sounds simple, and that's what I want people to hear. Because often when they look at someone who is as strong as you, they think there must be some kind of sophisticated nutrition regimen here, or they think that you're taking 20 different sports nutrition supplements. And it sounds like you keep things. You have a very smart training program. You eat. in a way that's just going to sustain that. It's nothing fancy, but it doesn't have to be fancy. The more basic it is, the better.
And I forgot to mention a big staple of my diet, especially since college, was nuts,
Yeah.
especially like peanuts and mixed nuts.
Yeah.
But I kind of get overboard with the mixed nuts, so it's more of like shelled peanuts
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because, and it's kind of like high portion sometimes with the nuts, which I have to be careful with. So otherwise, if otherwise, sometimes if it's junk food, I would eat anything on the planet. You name it, cream, candy, whatever. You don't get to 273 pounds of a gut eating health all the time.
Well, that's
But
the thing is that
yeah,
it's actually impossible, in my opinion, to become overweight if you're only eating real food. I mean,
exactly.
100% of the time. Because I've been on a plant-based diet myself for 26 years. I've been a vegetarian since I was 15. I eat a lot of nuts and seeds, though, because I'm a big believer in good amounts of fats in your diet for hormones and strength and so forth. I've always found that if my dietary fat goes low, my strength goes with it. So I eat a good amount of fat in my diet. I cook with coconut oil. I use olive oil, things like that. So I load up on good fats. And I definitely don't deprive myself of carbohydrates. I eat all the clean carbohydrates I want. I just want the fuel. But you definitely find that when you have your nutrition dialed in, not only does it improve performance, but if you're not eating anything processed at all, I mean nothing, just real food. So in my case, it would be fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, legumes, mushrooms, right? Let's say those are the only food groups I'm eating. It is impossible to become overweight eating that way. And
Yeah,
people say, "Well, it's all calories. You could overeat that." No, you can't overeat that because nobody has a big bowl of black beans and then wants another bowl of it. Nobody
yeah.
has an apple and then wants to eat a whole bag of apples afterwards.
I agree. It's impossible to eat too much of nuts and seeds and vegetables because if you have a big bowl of beans, unless you're one of those very rare people who can't stop eating beans, it's
Yeah,
impossible to just overeat fruits. I mean, fruits kind of because of the sugar content, but vegetables, it's impossible to overeat it. Nuts, honestly, nuts is one of the main foods along with cheese, but nuts, I overeat nuts sometimes. And that also keeps my body weight up, but not as much. It wouldn't keep my body weight up as much as the eating processed food and sugar and junk food. But I definitely have a high nut diet
yeah.
because I enjoy it. And it's not the worst of the food I eat, but sometimes it could keep my weight up if I don't be careful.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's especially if it's like mixed nuts, you know?
What I like
But
is what I like is almonds, pistachios, cashews, some dark chocolate thrown in. This is a trail mix, my own trail mix. Some dark chocolate, a few raisins. That's delicious. I take that when I go hiking. That's a late night snack. Sometimes it's late night. You don't want to cook a meal. It's late night, but you want to
yeah,
eat something and you want to eat something clean. So I just make a bowl of that. And it's not even a big bowl, but it fills you up because it's not just the calories. You're getting so much nutrition. You're getting all the vitamins, you're getting minerals, you're getting good fibers. So it's really high in micronutrients. When you eat a diet that's high in micronutrients, as well as a good amount of macronutrients, of course, but when it's high in micronutrients, you get filled up so much faster. When you're eating just empty calories, maybe it's high in macronutrients, but there's no actual nutrition in it. You're not getting vitamins, minerals, polyphenols, or anything like that. You can eat that stuff forever because the satiety center in your body is never being the switch is never being turned off because your body's just was like, okay, we just ate a bunch of garbage, we have no nutrition value from that, so let's just keep eating so we get some nutrition. But when you actually eat stuff that's really high in nutrition, sometimes it's hard to for me to even finish my dinner, not because it doesn't taste good, it tastes
yeah,
great, but it's just so high in nutrition. I usually split it up into two now. I stir fry a big meal at night, and then I eat half of it, go walk the dogs, come back, eat the rest of it. Now, but what I used to do before is I would just make myself finish the plate. Like, I got to get these calories in. And you only enjoy the first half of the meal when you do that because once you no longer enjoy the taste, but you just keep eating because you feel like you need to get the calories in, it's not, it's, you're creating a bad habit in your mind of just eating when you're not hungry. So what I do now is I eat, and then once I feel content, I stop. I go, you don't have to keep eating right now. You don't have to force it. Just save another plate for later, because you'll be hungry in about 2 hours. And then you're going to enjoy it again. And your digestion is going to be so much better. I mean, if you only eat when you're genuinely hungry, your digestion is so much better than if you're just stuffing your face all day long with garbage food in particular. But it's a stress on your digestive system every time you eat, even if it's healthy food.
Hmm. The first several years was just me stuffing my face because I knew I had to do that to
Yeah.
get stronger and lift the weights because I wasn't taking steroids or anything.
Yeah.
So substitute a lot of sleep and a lot of food and lifting a lot of weight a lot of times a week
Right.
and sometimes a lot of times a day. Because I also saw in the Pavel, I keep calling him Pavel, but
Painful. It's okay.
I saw Grease the Groove, so that was another thing I practiced in one of the years when I was in
Yeah.
college. I was that one guy lifting multiple times a day, and each time between, I would just either sometimes not be in between. I would just go to the cafeteria, and luckily the cafeteria, the meal plan was a la carte, which is like a buffet, which
Right.
you could go to line back in line anytime as possible. So I basically took advantage of that.
Right.
So I wasn't fat either in college because I lifted so much weight and I exercised so much
Yeah.
that most of it turned into muscle.
Right.
But most of them thought I was on
Things,
steroids anyway.
things are a little bit different at that age than when you're 46. When you're 18, you can put away a lot of food and not suffer the negatives of it, especially when you're really active. And what happens when people get older is not that their metabolism slows down. That's the myth that we keep hearing. Oh, I'm 45 now. My metabolism is not as high as it used to be. I go, no, your activity level is not as high as it used to be. You're way more sedentary now than you used to be. When you were younger, you used to lift weights 6 days a week, and then you would go hiking with your girlfriend, and then you would go running with your friends, and then you would go swimming at the lake. You were active. And then you get to the point where now it's you watch Netflix for 4 hours every night, and you don't walk the dogs around the block anymore, and you work out sporadically. So of course your metabolism is going to slow down, but it's predicated on the diminished activity level, not because you just hit some magic number. I hate when people use age as an excuse. I hate it. I hate it when people say, "Oh, wait till you get to my age." When I was your age, in my
All the time.
you're in your early 30s, right? You're about 31 now, 32, or how old are you?
28.
Okay, 28. So I knew you were in that ballpark. Okay, so when
Yeah.
I was your age, 28, that's when I got started in the fitness industry. This is 2002. And I would be doing snatches with kettlebells, heavy snatches, presses, and so forth. And then I would meet guys in their, let's say, mid 30s that are going, oh, wait till you get to my age, or guys in their 40s, wait till you get to my age, or someone in his 60, like, oh, wait till you get to my age. And the condescension with that is that they're implying that they could do what you're doing now when they were your age, which they couldn't, because if they did, they'd have more respect and they wouldn't make that stupid comment. They're thinking that they're basically saying, oh, the only reason why you're strong is because you're young. And when you get to my age, you're not going to be strong anymore. And I always thought that was such a pathetic way to look at things. And I didn't have any examples, though, of guys in their 40s that were strong. So there wasn't any reason for me not to believe them. But there also wasn't any reason for me not to believe that I couldn't be the exception to that, given that I'm dedicated to training and exercise and so forth. Why do I have to get weaker as I get older if I understand endocrinology and effective training and so forth, build these habits now as a young man? And then Mark Philippi, as you know, strongman competitor, he told me he didn't reach his peak until he was in his mid 40s in terms of his strength abilities. That's when he deadlifted 900 pounds at the Arnold Classic and overhead pressed 400 pounds. And he's lifetime natural. He's never used anabolics. So, I mean, so when he told me that, I was 37. I'm like, okay, great. I've got many years to go. But honestly, I feel like I've got many more years to go of building strength. I don't feel like I'm at the pinnacle at all right now. Like if I look at my deadlift using jujitsu terms, I would say that my 605 deadlift at my body weight, that's the equivalent of getting a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. It's nowhere close to getting a black belt, though. I feel like I can get a black belt, which would be, for me, a 700-pound deadlift. I think would put me in that ballpark. Yeah, and I know I can do that. It's going to take a couple of years, but I know I can do that. I know if I play it smart, I can add 20 pounds a year to my deadlift for the next couple of years, and by the time I'm 50, pull 700.
I see it. 700 pounds by 50. Maybe like around, you're 46 now, like maybe 48 to 50 years old.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get 700 pounds by 50, maybe you'll get at least 650 or 660 pounds. And then maybe when you're approaching like 55 or early 50s, mid 50s, that's when the 700 will come, you know?
Yeah, because I take care of myself too. I get a massage once a week, got a hot tub in my backyard. I do a lot of restoration. I make sure I sleep really well every night, and I eat really clean, healthy lifestyle. So there's no reason to think that it has to just be this rapid decline that people like. I think it's just people making excuses, honestly. I think it's people going, yep, see, I'm older now. That's why I can't do all that stuff. It's like, no, you don't want to. You're not dedicated anymore. Yeah, you don't want it anymore, which is okay. But just be honest about it.
Life happens, you know? Not everybody takes this extremely seriously, you know? People also have other priorities and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the same time, it is, like you said, it is excuses. And sometimes when an old person says, wait till you get to my age, they're also being salty that when they were actually my age, they didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. So they think you can't either when they're their age. They want to pretend they achieved what you achieved better. Then get to their age.
Well, that's the other one I hate. When people talk about what they used to be able to do, that's the other one I hate. Like, oh, I used to be able to do that. It's like, yeah, sure you did. It's like, I used to be able to deadlift 600 pounds as well. It's like, okay, well, let's see the clip. Oh, well, no one was around when I was by myself in my garage. I was like, oh yeah, I bench pressed 800 pounds one time by myself in the garage. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. It's just people making excuses. That's all it is. But I never really care about what other people think. I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm focused on what I know I'm capable of. I don't need anyone else to decide for me what I'm capable of. I'll decide that. If I hit or don't hit this number, it's going to be because I decided to hit or not hit it, not because someone else told me I can or can't do it.
Exactly. Your progress or whatever you make, you look at other people for a source of community, motivation, or anything positive. But truly, your progress is only based on your own goals and what you yourself are able to do, you know? And funny enough about, I bench 800 pounds at 12 years old and when I was in high school, right? I was that dude doing the research on programs I can do, seeing all the internet early YouTube lifters before YouTube changed. Early YouTube where you just post a lifting clip without any theatrics and stuff. And then I would see all these anonymous trolls just say, "Oh, I was 12 years old benching 600." And then people would always respond to them saying, "What? You have no videos? You have no videos."
Right.
So it's like me. I was like, okay, now I'm actually starting to lift. I'm eventually gonna make something of myself. So I'm gonna actually post a big lift. And I actually did my first video, the 585-pound sumo deadlift, back in December 2010, December 3rd to be exact. Even though I completed the lift in November, December 3rd, 2010, end of November before Thanksgiving. December 3rd, 2010, I uploaded the video. So I was like, I was that teenager going on pages saying, "Hey man, I'm 18 years old, I'm 220 pounds, I deadlifted 585 pounds, and I'm not even as big as you." I went to a bodybuilder I followed YouTube. He was deadlifting 500 for 4 reps. I was like, I deadlift 585. I deadlift more than him. Yet my arms are smaller than his. But people actually saw I had the video. He actually saw I had the video. So he just deleted my comment. For me to do, but then it was later in 2011. I uploaded a little more videos, and then I was commenting, and then on other lifters videos in the community, the big time lifters, people like Chris Hickson, who deadlifted 800 pounds at 18 years old, and Eric Lillybridge, who was basically, I'm sure you know who Larry Wheels is, right?
I don't think
A
so.
little familiar.
Yeah, I don't think so. Some kind of YouTube personality, or is it...
He's basically some, not just a YouTube personality and Instagram personality, but he's basically the prodigy who's basically like one of the strongest powerlifters out there. He
Oh, okay.
held the he held the all-time world record total in the 242 weight class at one point, and eventually the 275 and
Oh, I know who
308
you're talking about.
weight class.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about now. Just took a second
Also,
to visualize.
yeah, he's also open about his steroid use, but we're
Yeah.
not going to talk about that now. But I was on videos and back then, and then people are like, okay, he actually has videos on what he talk about. So long story short, I was just making the I was just making my YouTube. It just started out of like saying I have videos to back up my claims because I see so many people troll saying what they can do. They had no proof of it. But I wanted to say what I can do, but have video proof of it. And
Right.
then it later became, oh, he didn't compete. But I had plans of competing, and I competed. But I don't even care about that, you know.
As long as you know that you did it, that's the most important thing, right?
That's
It's
people
people
for,
that didn't
you know.
do it, they're going to be the ones who go scattering. They're going to go, uh-oh, someone's going to find out. But if you know you did it, that's important. But it's cool to have a little. I like filming myself doing stuff just because I like having a record. I also like reviewing my technique. So I like to film most of my deadlift sessions. I like to film at least one clip because I want to see how things look. And if I have a really good workout, I really want to film that because I want to do that again. I go, my technique felt perfect today. So let me have some kind of visual cue that I can review so that I have consistency. I get this every single time. And if it didn't go well, I can look at it and go, okay, that's why it didn't go well. You had the bar too close to your feet, so you didn't load up properly. It gives you this feedback, especially when you're not being trained by someone else. So you're able to review what you're doing. Now,
Yeah,
go
I'm
ahead.
just saying. First, it did start with the okay, I'm gonna prove that I have videos backing up my claims. But at the same time, even with that in my head, I knew I was gonna lift for pretty much the rest of my life. I had videos, I had progress photos, I had everything, so I could see where I started, and I want to see where I end. So this is just to document my whole
Yeah,
progress and
that's
have evidence of my progress.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
it's just to document my whole time doing it. So that's why I did it.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that could be a book you write in the future. That could be your journey about this whole game. That could be there's a lot that could come out of it. Now, you actually train other people too, right? Do you train
Yeah.
people in a commercial gym or do you do online program design or both?
I do online programming, but it also started in college. I was training people in college, as in my college, obviously, I'm the big man on campus, the guy who
Right.
lifts all the weights.
Literally and figuratively. Yeah.
I was all that. So
Yeah.
people saw that they hired me to train them. So along with studying, I was also training people, and it was also doing my own programming, you know.
Right.
And based on what not just based on looking at other people I looked up, I saw the training methods that worked, but it's also what I experimented on myself in my own twist. So what I put on, what am I saying? So yeah, I was just training people.
Yeah. And now you are working. I'm assuming you've been out of work for a minute now because you were probably training people at a commercial gym, or is it more of the online stuff you're still doing?
I'm more on the online stuff, and I'm just building up my brand for the online stuff. So it's mainly the online training.
Now, it's mainly people interested in powerlifting pursuits, or is it anyone interested in improving?
Anyone to gain muscle or gain strength, both in powerlifting, some strongman, some calisthenics, some off-season bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm. And you have a website where people can find out about this? How do people find out more?
Yes, basically, it's you could just type in Tobi Strength. That's my brand.
Okay.
You could just drop my Instagram. I'll drop my Instagram where you could follow me, and my YouTube
Sure.
I have,
What's
and
your
my
what's
website I don't name because I was actually working on the website
Okay.
and I just finalized it. So you could also find me on that website if you're interested.
All right, final question here. So since the pandemic started, the gyms have been closed. You've only been at home. What are you doing with your body weight? What are you doing to stay in shape right now?
Right now, besides some rest days I've been doing, I just been doing dips. I've been doing neighborhood walks. I've been doing pull-ups and chin-ups. And I've been doing sometimes body weight squats and sometimes weighted pistol squats.
Okay.
And if anything, I've been doing neighborhood walks more than that.
Yeah.
And if anything, the most thing I've done to stay in shape or the diet. So I would continue to lose weight to get leaner and healthier.
Yeah. So you're taking advantage. I feel like this whole pandemic was a opportunity for a lot of people that many missed out on because they don't care. It's not because they cared and they missed out. But what I'm saying by that is for a lot of people, they've never had the opportunity to have so much time on their hands where they could have done so many productive things. So maybe you're one of those people that always says, I'm too busy to exercise. Work is hectic. I got kids. You have all the excuses, right? And all of a sudden now you have 3 months where you're getting paid to stay home and your kids are there. So you probably have to do homeschooling. So that's going to take some time out of your day. But you also have plenty of time to exercise. And it could be something as simple as you go for a walk every day. Go walk a couple miles every day. That's it. You don't have to try to do a CrossFit workout at home. Just go walking every day. And then maybe add in some push-ups, do some pull-ups. Just do a couple sets throughout the day, that greasing the groove style. It's perfect
Yeah.
for home workouts. I do that all the time myself. A lot of times I get up and I go outside, I just bang out some kettlebell presses throughout the day. Nothing serious, but just something just so I'm not sitting down all day long. Move around a little bit. And then clean up your diet. Make your immune system really strong so that if you do get COVID, you're more likely to be asymptomatic or
Yeah.
have symptoms, or at the very least survive it because you're healthy. You have a good immune system. So it was several months where people really could have taken charge of their health, and it wouldn't have required a lot of suffering. If that's the way people look at exercise. It wouldn't have required a lot of suffering on their part. Just be more active. But so few people did that. Most people just got glued to the TV. They're watching the news all day. They're getting all this fear-based propaganda in their head. And then they're watching Netflix all night. It was such a wasted opportunity. But it was only a wasted opportunity by those who don't care. And so you can't get someone who doesn't care to care about things.
That's true.
Don't care.
Honestly, the exercise is just a matter of so many people are not really into exercise.
That's
And
right.
if you're into something, if it doesn't interest you, your heart is not set to it, you don't desire to do it, how could you do it in the long run? So
That's
what
right.
I tell people, even my clients, if you want to exercise, it has to be in a way that you're going to stick to it and enjoy doing.
Right.
Because if it's something you don't enjoy doing, if it's not in a way you'll enjoy doing it, stick to it, you're not going to get results. You're not going to continue doing it. So the best program that works and the best diet that works is the one you'll stick to and the one that actually you get progress with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, if I needed to do Zumba to improve my deadlift's not going to improve, because I'm not going to commit to that. So
Mm.
whenever people ask me, they go, what's the best exercise regimen for this, that, and so forth? I go, number one, there's no best regimen for everybody categorically, but it doesn't really matter what the best is if you don't enjoy it to some extent. Because if you dread doing that training session every time, you're not going to sustain it. You're going to look for reasons. You're going to look for reasons to get out of it. That's just what's going to happen. you're not going to last long enough. If you don't enjoy the process, you don't last long enough to enjoy the immense results that are possible.
Exactly. Every now and then you have to do what you don't want to do because it's necessary.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Now and then, but if it's all the time, you do something you know you hate, or you do something that you know you won't have success in, or you just are not into, then you're wasting your time. But at the same time, if it's something that you're actually doing and something that you actually enjoy, you're not gonna like what you do all the time. That's the thing. You
100%.
won't enjoy everything all the time. You'll have hard times, you'll have dark times, and you won't enjoy it all the time. But yeah, I made my point.
No, you made it. You made it. That's absolutely true. I mean, most of the time I enjoy training, but I go through periods like everybody else where you're just not that motivated. So whenever I'm not that motivated though, I just put in work. I stay consistent. So in other words, if I'm not motivated, I don't just stop training for a long
Yeah,
period of time. Maybe I take a week off, that's fine, but I'm not going to take 3 months off because I'm not motivated. I'm going to put in work. I'm just like, look, I'm not excited about brushing my teeth every morning, but I do it every morning and before bed. You know, you don't have to be excited about everything all the time. But in the long run, when you're doing things, you have to. It's hard to commit to a goal if the process is unbearable. You just can't stand it. You're going to go through periods where it's not enjoyable. You don't look forward to it, but that should be less often than the times where you feel really enthusiastic about something. If it's something you actually care about achieving, if it's a goal you care about achieving, committing to the process is not as a daunting task as when you don't care. I think the mistake a lot of people make is they have these arbitrary goals that are really not that important to them. Maybe they read it in a magazine somewhere, oh, I should lose 30 pounds for this reason or that, but they don't really care if you go deep into their conscious mind. And I think that's the problem. When you try to pursue, because look, there have been goals I set before and I didn't come close to achieving. And when I look at them, it's because I didn't really care to do it. It was just something that sounded good at the time. So I think people have to be really honest about what they're trying to achieve, whether it's an income goal or a business goal or a training goal. Don't lie to yourself because you're only going to hurt yourself.
yeah, I agree.
Well, hey man, this has been awesome. Real pleasure talking to you. And what's your Instagram handle? Because I actually use Instagram quite a bit, so I'll make sure to follow you if I'm not following you. And then what I'm going to do with this, what I like to do is I like to make about 3-minute clips from this conversation, and I actually post them on Instagram, and I get a
Sure.
lot of views from there. So I'll tag you in those, and let's get some eyes on what you're doing. And then I upload the entire episode to YouTube as well, so it'll be on both fronts, both mediums.
My Instagram is my Instagram is Tobi. You
Mm-hmm.
know, just with an I, right?
Yep.
So Tobi Alder strength coach. So Tobi _ Alder _ strength _ coach.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look you up right after this. Well,
That's my
this is
Instagram.
awesome. So people can find out more about your online program design. You definitely know your stuff. You're a super strong young guy. I mean, you're only 28 and you've achieved so much. I mean, I can't even, I'm excited to see what you do in the next 12 years, honestly. I think your best years of training are ahead of you. And I think you're going to really dial everything in even in a more effective way because look, when I was 28, I was pretty knowledgeable, but nowhere near as knowledgeable as I am now. And you're obviously very knowledgeable at 28, but I think when you're 40 and you've been down this road another 12 years, you're going to be so knowledgeable, not just with effective training, but so many other things that it's only going to have a positive impact on anything you're trying to do. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on what you're doing. I like what I'm seeing.
Thank you.
But this is great, man. Let me go ahead and stop recording. And let's see. Yeah, stop recording.